Are you one of those people that just die when you're asked to speak in public? You get so nervous and you're like, I'm just plagued with this. There's no way I can get better. I hate having to do presentations and speaking at meetings. Well, listen, that really could be holding you back in your career, and I don't want that for you. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to reveal 3 insider secrets when it comes to the public speaking game that professional speakers really don't want you to know. We want to corner the market. We want to think we are the fabulous ones. We may not want to share the stage, okay? No, but seriously, these are 3 strategies I've used for years that can really help you be more comfortable speaking in public. So if you want to learn these insider secrets, come back and join me for episode 59 of the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast.
Are you a strong, independent woman who's passionate about her career? Then this podcast is perfect for you. Based on her book, The Career Woman's Secret Playbook, career coach Dr. Dawn Hamby shares the kind of insider secrets you can only know if you've hired, fired, and promoted employees over the past 30 years.
Ladies, I'm on a mission to help busy women just like you create a career and life you love without sacrificing your work-life balance to get it. Come join me as we inspire and motivate each other only as women can and have lots of fun along the way.
With Dr. Dawn's tools, strategies, and action steps, you can unleash your personal and professional power in a whole new way. Here's today's episode.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn, and I think it's very fitting I'm talking about public speaking today because if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see I am standing up instead of sitting down as I usually do when I'm filming the podcast. I'm holding the microphone. I'm doing this not because I'm talking about public speaking. I wish that was really the case. I'm going to be honest about it, you guys. I forgot my mic stand, and some of you know if you've been listening to us for a while that I travel each and every week pretty much to see clients. My husband and I travel all across the state. Well, this was one of the few times I forgot my mic stand for the hotel room. So here I am. So I think it's very fitting. I'm talking about public speaking today because usually if I'm making a presentation, I'm going to be holding the microphone. I'll be walking around. Well, to make sure the audio is maybe a little better than usual. Although, you guys, I'm going to apologize now if you can hear music in the hallway. I've had to step outside and ask housekeeping if they wouldn't mind turning down the music just a little bit. I think it's great. I use music too if I want to be motivated to clean, right? But it was so loud. I thought, well, maybe the audience would enjoy the music, but just to be on the safe side, guys, I wanted to keep it a little bit more professional, especially since we're talking about public speaking and trying to become a little bit more professional and comfortable with that. So again, if you're watching us on YouTube, I think you're going to like sort of this setup because it really does look like I'm giving some formal speech today. Also, by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes. And you guys, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast as well. If you are listening to us on your favorite platform, don't forget to check those show notes. That's where I'm going to put the links to other videos that could help you. That's also where I've got the link to our website. Our website is filled with lots of free resources for you. So if you're new, be sure to go to drdawnshoptalk.com. That's just DRDAWN, shoptalk.com. And right there, you're going to find tons of free resources that can help you on this career journey. I think you're really going to love it, so be sure to check that out. All right, you guys, let's get to these 3 tips, these 3 strategies that I've used for years that I know really have helped me when I'm trying to do my best job, either for a presentation, maybe it's a workshop, maybe I'm just leading a meeting, something along those lines, and I want to feel more comfortable, more confident. I want to make sure that my audience really is enjoying the presentation as much as they are learning from it. And you guys, if you feel, sort of like, what's wrong with me? Why do I get so nervous when I'm speaking in public or the boss calls upon me in front of a room full of people to give my, insights to something? Listen, you are not alone. Absolutely not. In fact, did you know that public speaking is the number one fear In fact, guys, there are funny studies out there. I think they're funny because they literally say that public speaking is the number one fear right in front of death. How could you be more afraid of public speaking than death? Well, if you've had a horrible experience, whether it was in school or on the job, where you're standing up there, you feel so nervous, maybe, especially if it's school, sometimes students are not the kindest, right? And, maybe it was such a tough experience for you. Maybe people were laughing. You felt like they were laughing at you, not with you. So if it was a tough experience, you might have some PTSD from the experience. Well, we definitely don't want that. We don't want any childhood trauma to affect you in the workplace and take away from the fact that you could be this amazing, powerful professional that I know you are. If you're tuning into our podcast or watching us on YouTube and you clicked on this video, I know that you're interested in not just upping your public speaking game, but you're really interested in investing in your future, in your own professional and personal development. So I'm so glad you're here. Again, thank you so much for finding us and tuning in. I can't wait to reveal some of these secrets. Now, with that being said, I'm just giving you 3 easy strategies to get you started. There's so much more I could share with you, but today, guys, I thought we would just get started with 3 easy steps that can help you right now. These are things that are simple to do that can really make a difference in how professional you come across, how powerful your message is, how often people will go back and remember, oh, yeah, Jill spoke to us the other day about that. Man, she's an amazing speaker and we learned a lot, right? I want that to be you. So let's start with this first very simple strategy. You've probably seen other professional speakers use this strategy. And strategy number 1, I'm calling the pause of power. So let me explain what I mean by that. So, for example, have you ever noticed some of the best speakers seem to command the attention of their audience and they don't rush through their words? In fact, you may have noticed that they seem to have these strategic pauses. That's really what I'm talking about. It's a very effective strategy that professional speakers have used for years to really kind of bring their audience in sort of on this journey. And by pausing strategically, it really helps their message become more impactful and meaningful. This trick helps their audiences hang on their every word. You'll see audience members literally leaning in and paying more attention. This magic happens because the silence gives the point that you're trying to make extra weight, allowing what you just said to really sink in. The pause is important in a lot of strategies. It doesn't have to be a formal presentation. If you're a supervisor, for example, and you're having to have an uncomfortable conversation with an employee, maybe they're really struggling, and you've got the resources to help them and you want to speak to them privately to make sure they understand the importance of them reaching out for help or using the strategies you're going to suggest. In a conversation like that, I've had to have that myself with my employees. I have definitely used that strategic pause to make sure they understand the importance of making some changes. Now, you can use the pause in other ways as well professionally. Let's say that you're coming up with a creative solution to a problem, an innovative idea, and you want to make sure that people really are paying attention to that suggestion. Use that pause. You could be in a Zoom meeting and you go ahead and start off and you're explaining a little something about what you want to discuss. Then you pause and give that answer. It really is a great strategy to get people to kind of think, oh, I think that's a great idea. But you do need to give them a couple of seconds again to let that sink in. I even use that very effectively in the classroom. In fact, when I work with school districts and talk about discipline and making sure that students are really doing their best and classroom management and all those kinds of things, I've always told teachers that they should never raise their voice. If you're yelling and you're in education, you've already lost that battle, haven't you? The pause is a great way, again, to make your point, to make it sink in, and silence can really stop that classroom. Silence makes everybody stop and they realize, oh, hang on, what's happening? What's going on? So that silent pause, right? That pause in the conversation, again, can be very, very effective. So when you're preparing your next speech, especially if it's a more formal one, plan moments when you literally stop and breathe and let your words linger. Strategy number 2, a second secret that a lot of professional speakers may not want you to know is the invisible connection. In other words, it's not just the words that you're using. It's not just that pause for effect, but it's about speaking in a way where it feels to your audience like you're having a one-to-one conversation. The best speakers make you feel that they're speaking directly to you, even if you're in a room filled with hundreds of people. The trick here is to really engage your audience with eye contact. Also, make sure you're asking rhetorical questions and use phrases like, I bet you've experienced this, or think about a time when, or has this ever happened to you? And then explain the story. When you do this, it turns your speech into more of a conversation. And that's really when people tune in. They're not only going to think you're this amazing public speaker, but your message is really going to come through. Strategy number 3, the power of the unexpected. Professional speakers love to surprise their audiences, but they really don't want you to know how intentional that is. In other words, they want you to think that they thought of that on the spot. It's not deceptive. Again, it's you being prepared and making your speech more interesting and engaging. Let me give you an example of this. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard of the famous British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill had a reputation of doing this exact same thing. He would actually memorize lots of phrases and comebacks. So if you've ever experienced, for example, wishing you had thought of, oh man, if I had just said that, I wish I had said that, that would have been the perfect response, right? Who hasn't experienced that? I certainly have too. Well, Winston Churchill, he knew that was something that could happen to us all. So he literally would memorize all of these different things he could say in certain situations. So he envisioned certain scenarios that might come up during his administration, and he would have prepared answers, but they never sounded prepared. It sounded like he just thought of that off the cuff. It's about you creating an experience for your audience. And I think Winston Churchill was just really dedicated to being the best prime minister he could be. If he has prepared answers, it means he's actually taken the time out of his busy schedule, right, to think about things that would convey the right message and represent what he's trying to accomplish on behalf of his country in his very important role as prime minister. So again, guys, when you think about this strategy, think, gosh, I don't know if that seems all that forthcoming. It's not that. It's why wouldn't you have a couple things prepared just in case? Also, to build it into your speech creates a very special moment between you and the audience. Let me give you a personal example of this. I'm 5'1 3/4" on a good day. Okay. Even in high heels, I think that's basically it. And so when it came to public speaking, I realized that if I was giving a formal speech and if I was going to be following someone, maybe they're introducing me something like that at a conference. Well, most of the time, the microphone would be, in this sort of encasement that you normally kind of pull down at the podium. Those podiums were really pretty high. Sometimes if I stood right behind the podium, you guys, you could just barely see my head above the podium. So I would normally take the microphone off the stand and walk out of the view of the podium. I would walk out from behind the podium and I would speak to the audience that way if I was on stage. Well, oftentimes the microphone was in this sort of like neck, for lack of a better word, that you would kind of pull down, sort of like this gooseneck thing. And I always was worried that there might be a time where the microphone either pulls off or I drop it because I had to readjust it all the time to make it correct for my height if I had to stay behind the podium. Perhaps maybe the microphone didn't come off or wasn't cordless, that kind of thing. And so I was always prepared to have something to say if everything went wrong. Well, Of course, one day it did. It took years for this to happen, thank goodness. But one day I am standing there in front of the largest audience I had ever had the privilege to speak in front of. There were at least 2,000 people in this auditorium. I'm standing there. Of course, the person in front of me is taller than me. Everybody is, but this particular person was actually over 6 feet tall. So this was a big adjustment to make on that podium. And of course, you probably can guess what happened next. Yes, I go to pull it down. It is not cordless, and those cords were pretty long. I didn't want to take the chance of tripping over it or messing with it or unplugging the microphone. So I'm like, okay, I'm literally going to just pull this down. They may not be able to see me that great, but it's fine. It's a short little spiel I'm giving. Everything will be fine. Well, sure enough, the entire thing comes right off the podium, crashing down. Now, can you imagine a huge auditorium? The crash is going to reverberate anyway. It's 10 times worse when the microphone is on. Can you imagine? So, needless to say, this was a little embarrassing. I'm standing up there, but again, I always knew this was a risk. So, I thought of something to say years before just to put everybody at ease and myself, right? Because you got to laugh at a situation like that. And here's a bonus tip for you. Your audience is going to think you are the best public speaker ever if they see that you're comfortable on stage. If you're really nervous and uncomfortable, it actually makes your audience nervous and uncomfortable. There's that invisible line I was talking about in the previous strategy. That invisible connection, in other words, is really there between you and your audience. So, especially if it's a formal speech and not say something where you're just participating by Zoom, it can be kind of nerve-wracking. So, can you imagine what this was like? If you're listening to this and this would be your worst fear, listen, I love public speaking and it was pretty stressful for me too. Okay. So imagine an introvert, a true introvert having to deal with this. They might have had a heart attack right there on stage. So I don't want this to happen to you. All you got to do is this. If this ever happens to you and everything goes wrong, things are crashing down and you've got people scrambling trying to get the podium put back in place and the microphone, this is what you say. You grab a hold of that microphone, you smile as I did that day. You just put your hand on your hip. If you're watching us on YouTube, I'm demonstrating this for you. And you just smile, look across the audience and say, well, I always did believe in making a grand entrance. You guys, something along those lines, use your own words, whatever feels natural to you. You could talk about making a great first impression, whatever feels right to you. But making a grand entrance, I felt like was definitely something I would always say if everything went wrong, especially if there was a problem with the microphone. And again, I shared with you, I was always scared something was going to happen and I was going to drop it or it was going to fall off the podium, whatever. And of course, it happened. By saying that, and when I smiled, the audience laughed, they clapped for me, and I just took it from there. I literally said, "Oh, well, you guys, we got through that part. The rest is going to be easy." And I went on my way. If I can do that, so can you. Now, here's something else to think about when it comes to strategy 3. It doesn't have to be something you've prepared if things go wrong. It doesn't have to be something that looks like it's off the cuff. It's just that oftentimes it might be a situation like that. But here's something else. Go ahead and plan it anyway. Because when I say the power of the unexpected, I'm not just talking about something unexpected happening to you as the speaker. We want the audience to see this as something unexpected. So it could be something as simple as you sharing a real startling statistic that they had no idea about. It could be a personal story like what I just shared. And if you share a personal story or a statistic, maybe a well timed joke, the audience doesn't see it coming. And what you create is just a really special moment. It makes you feel great as the speaker. You're having fun with it when they see that you're enthusiastic and passionate about what you're saying. They're going to not only love it, they're going to think you're an amazing speaker, and they're going to remember what it was you were there to share. No matter what you choose, just remember that surprise element can really make your audience engaged. They'll love the experience, and so will you. Well, there you have it, friends. 3 of those top secret skills that professional speakers use to keep their audiences hanging on their every word. Now you've got them too. So let's do a quick recap. Number 1, you're going to use the pause of power. Number 2, you're going to create that invisible connection between you and the audience. And last but not least, number 3, you're going to throw in an unexpected twist to keep your audience engaged from start to finish. These 3 strategies alone, you guys, are going to help you feel more confident. You're going to feel more prepared the next time you have to do any professional speaking. And it's going to really help you stand out as the kind of speaker people are going to not only want to listen to, but really enjoy. These strategies alone are going to help build your confidence and make you the kind of speaker people really want to listen to. All right, you guys, as we wrap up, I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. And remember our motto here on the podcast, and it's this: if you're not having a fantastic day, you've got the power to make it one. Catch you next time, everyone. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other episodes. And for more tips and strategies, be sure to follow us on our socials at Dr. Dawn Shop Talk. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.
I know our episode is over, but this is just the beginning. If you're ready to take action but don't know where to start, just head over to DrDawnShopTalk.com for lots of free resources, ways to work together, and for even more. Subscribe to the Dr. Dawn Shop Talk YouTube channel. Remember, ladies, you don't have to take this journey alone. I've got you covered. Till next time.